It was kind of a calling for me. Actually, when I was in high school, I wrote in my yearbook that I wanted to be a professional skier, and it was in my genes. My grandfather had a role in skiing. He was the 10th Mountain Division in World War II. They were in the Alps with their guns, and that was their way of transportation, was on skis.
Welcome to WinniPlus, a podcast about the people, places, and businesses that define the culture of the Lakes region. Now for today's episode.
A few years ago, I was scrolling through my LinkedIn feed and came across some aerial footage of a man skating across Lake Winnipesaukee with a hockey stick. I remember being mesmerized by this footage. The skies were blue, the ice was smooth, and the lake was empty for as far as the eye could see. I thought to myself, why aren't I doing that? And then I thought, who is this person skating across the lake?
My parents live in Melvin Village. It's on the north side of Winnipesaukee. And my nephew had gotten a drone, younger nephew, and we went and shot. It was actually a perfect day. It was a glassy day over in Tuftonboro, which doesn't happen too often on Winnipesaukee. So we were just out, my brother playing some hockey, and he just happened to get a pretty cool footage that I posted on LinkedIn, and I think I actually got like 50,000 something views on that video. Not that it really matters, but it was a cool glimpse of skating on Winnipesaukee, which you don't get too regular because the lake is so big and you have a lot of ice shifts, and so that was it was a pretty magical day out there.
Turns out it was former pro Telemark skier turned Lakes region realtor, Josh Johnson. Having enjoyed winter sports his whole life, he and his family found the perfect place to enjoy the outdoors.
So we live, like a minute away from Winnipesaukee. So we have a couple snowmobiles, my wife and I. We have 3 young kids, so we have a sleigh behind our snowmobile. We'll tote our kids down, ice skate, the fire pit. We got a little rink, and we do have it all. And I lived out west for a while. I lived in Santa Cruz, and I refer Winnipesaukee as the Lake Tahoe on the East Coast, because everyone, from the Bay Area, they would go to Tahoe to get away, but we get to live here year round. We get to ice skate, we get to cross country ski, snowshoe, ski, whether at Gunstock, White Mountains, Wildcat, Cannon. They're just endless of things to do. And the good thing is too, we have the coast close by. I'm only 45 minutes to the coast, not too far from Boston, so it's nice where we have remoteness, but we're not too remote, where we have access to other places in the state or other states as well.
Yeah, one of those things you mentioned was skiing, which has played sort of a crucial part of your life and probably a part of your being, your soul, one of your passions. Talk about, what that was like for you and your journey through skiing.
So it goes back to actually when I was a kid. My dad was a national ski jumper, cross country skier. He was number 2 in the country as a junior national, and then a national champion as a high schooler. He ski jumped up in Berlin, New Hampshire, which is the Nansen ski jump. It was the first steel structured ski jump in America. And him, my uncle, and my grandfather, they jumped that thousands of times. We skied a little bit as a kid, but I mostly played hockey. But it wasn't until I moved to Utah after high school. I moved there the summer after high school and moved out there, and my goal was to be a professional skier. And within a year and a half, I was a sponsored skier. I skied for Rosignol. I was on posters for them. I was on magazine covers. Kristen Ulmer, she's the pioneer of women's skiing. She actually grew up here in New Hampshire. She wrote an article about me, and I used to telemark ski, which I still do, but I changed her mind on what telemarking is, and she kind of thought it was a lame sport, but I kind of did some cool things skiing with her one day, and she was pretty impressed. So that's kind of a cool thing to happen. And just meeting, I met a lot of the top. I skied with Johnny Mosley, Tanner Hall, Peekaboo Street. So it was a cool experience. I learned a lot about meeting people, strangers, selling, promoting, all that stuff as a young 20-year-old kid living in Utah.
Another thing about your family's history, it's sort of generational, right? Your grandfather had a role in skiing as well.
Yes, my grandfather had a role in skiing. He was the 10th Mountain Division in the World War II. So what that means is they were in the Alps with their guns, and that was their way of transportation, was on skis. So he was only for a short period of time, though, because when he was in the 10th Mountain Division, he had a family member that passed away, and he had to come back to the States. And when he went back, he was a tank driver, actually, after that. And he was actually with General Patton during that time, I think, like, very close to him. And actually, my grandparents met in the war. My grandmother was from Austria.
Did you feel like it was sort of a calling for you, or was it sort of just like, I got to follow these footsteps, or I got to one up them? Was it competition for you, or how did that kind of to play in your part as a skier?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a calling for me. Actually, when I was in high school, I wrote in my yearbook that I wanted to be a professional skier. But I don't think I'm not super competitive. That's kind of a weak point for me. Not saying that's not bad to be competitive, but yeah, I think it was just something that I knew I could be good at, and it was in my genes, and I just went out there and did it. And yeah, I don't know for what reason, but I knew I could be really good at it, and I was able to become a sponsored skier and meet some great people along the way.
But professional skiing was never a forever plan, and the West Coast was never going to be Josh's forever home.
Well, when I finished skiing, I actually moved to California after that, and actually I pursued playing golf professionally. That still is a passion that I have, and I still have goals playing professionally golf. That's something that I know as I get older, I can and I will get better. So that's something that kind of on the back burner, but I still have a passion for that. So I moved to Santa Cruz, played a lot of golf, went to school, and met my wife back here in New Hampshire. And we were having our second child living in California. And at that point, we knew for us, New Hampshire was always home. I lived in Utah for 8 years, California for about 7, and New Hampshire was always home because I loved it here. So when we were having our second child, it was like we're going home because we wanted to be with our parents. Have the kids grow up with their grandparents around. That's just was super important to us. So that was just about a little over 7 years ago now. We moved back to Wolfboro.
Yeah, dig into that a little bit more. I'm curious, when you say, New Hampshire was home for you, I mean, what else defines that besides family? I mean, is it the region itself?
Yeah. Family was definitely important, but just the what New Hampshire has to offer, the mountains, the people. Some people can get a bad rap because we're maybe not as laid back, and I'm more of a laid back person. But it's kind of a no nonsense, you kind of mentality, which I do appreciate. Hardworking. I do like the seasons. The living in California where it's just 65 and 70 all year round most of the time, it kind of got boring after a while. So I do love the seasons, the leaves, the summer. It just, especially growing up as a child, I think it shapes you into who you are. Because if you get used to just simple stuff, simple weather, it does shape you as a person. And I think, growing up in New Hampshire, New England, has shaped me into who I am today.
What would you say to people that kind of get maybe nervous about leaving a city area because of work or because of something? I mean, how do you, what do you tell people that might want to move into this area?
Well, one thing that I tell people that are nervous about coming up here. So my mom grew up in Chelsea. She was a city girl, and it took her some time to get used to the quietness. But I think if you grow up in a busy, city life, you're used to noise. And when you first come up here, it takes time. But after a while, your body can just like enjoy just simplicity and not all chaosness. So I think that's one thing that kind of sticks out. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so quiet," but after time, most people just fall in love with it, and they realize that they can truly relax in a place that's just not just filled with noise all the time. So that's one thing that comes up when people, there's no street lights and it's so quiet. But in reality, deep down, most people in today's world, especially with what's going on, they need a place to just chill out and not be filled with noise. So that's a common theme that I've shared with people.
If you're doing one thing here in the Lakes region on any given day, going somewhere, doing something, what would be your like ideal thing to do or place to go?
One thing that I would do on a summer day here in New England, I definitely love hiking. Whether I'd maybe go up to the Castle in the Clouds up on the north side of Winnipesaukee, and there's an awesome trail of waterfalls through there, and it's just peace and quiet. Just out for a little stroll. That's a great day for me. Winters do get long, so you have to really push to be able to get out and to enjoy winter activities. Especially if you're working 9 to 5, you're home at 5 and it's dark already. So, and whether you're shoveling or plowing, there's a lot. You have to push yourself to do activities, and it's easy not to. Is like we burn a wood stove. We have a wood stove going all the time, so that's like another job. So I have to push myself, whether it's just going outside and sledding with the kids or it's tough, but you have to kind of push yourself to get outside because winters can be long up here if you're living full time up here.
Lastly, Josh told me his secret technique on selling real estate. He said the area sells itself. Go figure. And maybe the next time you pass the frozen lake and catch a glimpse of someone skating across it, well, you know exactly who it might be.
This episode is over, but please visit WinniPlus.com for more adventure. WinniPlus, the #1 way to explore the Lakes region.